Hello all, so in this video I will be carrying out a demonstration as to how you can use Solidworks drawings, and realistically the more important aspect is the nature of the sketches in Solidworks such that they can be dynamic and not fully constrained to communicate the principles of an external tangent between circles. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to draw my two circles. So I will go down to my layers and make sure that I'm in my finished layer, because these are important to the finished solution of the question. I'll draw my first circle here, draw it any size that is appropriate. And I'll draw my second circle over here. I'll have that just a bit smaller. You have it a bit bigger or a bit smaller, just changes the nature of how you interact with the problem. Now, with the way that I've drawn it so far, these two circles are free to move around, but they're also free to change in diameter and radius. So if I select those two circles, dragging from right to left and just hit off those circles, it selects them. So that should select that, yeah. And if I select from left to right, only what is fully encompassed within that blue square will be selected. So you can see that my circle on the left was selected and not my one on the right, whereas when I select from right to left with my green square, anything that touches that square will be selected. That's just a kind of a common principle across CAD packages that is important to point out. So I fix these circles, now they do not move, and when I try and move the point, it does not move. So cannot drag, the selected item is fixed. So basically I've ensured that it's fully defined, so the sketch is fully defined and it cannot move. What I want to do next is I want to start putting the construction that we use for this. And the fundamental construction that we use for this is the principle that we can draw and we can construct a tangent to a circle from a point external to the curve, outside the curve. And what we do with that is we draw a line from the center of our circle out to our point. I'm going to use a different layer for this. Okay. So I'm going to go into my layers and I need to just make sure that I've got them updated properly. So they're not updated properly. Okay, so I paused and just updated them. So I'm going to draw my line in between my circles. I'm going to use my green color to do that. So to be able to draw my line between circles, to be able to select the center of my circle as the point in which I want to start drawing my line, I need to first of all hover over my circle, which will then give me this black cross and circle here, and that will allow me to snap to that. And then again for this one, I need to hover over the circle itself to be able to get it to display the center point of that circle, because it is not an actual explicit point in geometry on the sheet. And just making sure that that's all lined up properly, and that's perfect. So that's a line between those. And the fundamental principle that we use is we reduce the smaller circle to a point such that we take away its radius from it, and that leaves us just with a point. And we take away that very same amount, that very same distance from the larger circle. And one way of doing that is to, first of all, just draw in a circle. Draw in any circle in our larger one, because we know that this is going to now be represented in a smaller form and it's free to move. We want to have something that will define that and that will manage the radius of that circle, such that the radius of that circle is less than the radius of this circle by this radius of the circle over here, the smaller circle. So to do that, I'll draw in a line in, I might as well keep it in blue because it relates to that. I'll draw in a line in blue from the center of my smaller circle out to the circumference. Escape, I'll press L to be able to start drawing the line again. And I will draw in my line again from the center of this circle out to the blue circle that I've just drawn in, and again out to my circumference. What I can do is I can just delete this line here, and then I can see here that because I drew those lines together, this line here is always going to have a coincident relationship with this line here. It's going to be collinear, essentially. That is the relationship that it will have. So that this will always act along the radii that propagate from the center of my larger circle. Now, in order for me to ensure that this circle here is the exact radius that I want it to be, I need to select this line here, when I select it, it's turning blue, so that's why you don't see that it's selected. And I'll select this line here. When I select them, I will make them equal. Excuse me. And this will now fix that circle. So this circle cannot move. This line can move whatever way it wants because it's the same distance the whole way around. No need for it to be fixed in that position. As with this one, this can move the whole way around. What we have here now is we've got our smaller circle that we can actually construct our tangent to, and then we can propagate from that. So what we will do is we will draw our semicircle with our lilac color, go to the center of our line between our two circles, and you can see over on the left hand side here that it gives you the steps in which to create arcs. So when I create a center point arc, the first time that I click, it's creating the center of the arc. The second point is it's creating the start of the arc, and the third is creating the end of the arc. When I've got my tangent arc, the first point that I click is the first point of the arc, so the first end of the arc, and the second point is the other end of the arc. And when I've got my 3-point arc, my first point is the first point of my arc, the second point is the end of the arc, and the third point is the other point in the arc that kind of defines the radius of it. But my center point one, the center is important, so I'll use that. I'll click on the center first, and I will click this to be the beginning of my circle, and this to be the end of it. And you can see here that that's fully defined again, and that is all within those bounds. And now what I can do is I can go back into my finished layer, and I can draw, well, realistically this is not a finished layer. I can go and draw my tangent between my point here, which is representative of that circle being reduced to a point, basically taking away its radius, and I'll go up here to make it intersect with my so I'll put it on the intersection point between this arc here and the circle that I've just drawn. And what that gives me then is the point of contact between the arc and my circle. So that is a construction of a tangent to that reduced size circle and the point that represents this circle reduced by its radius. Now what I want to do is I want to propagate out back these points that are important, the most significant point being where this point here exists on the circumference. So I'll go from my center out to the circumference and propagate out again. So if I want to propagate that out again, I just hover over that line and then follow up this yellow line here. Difficult to see on a white sheet, but you can see there that that gives me a line by which I can draw my tangent out here at 90 degrees to, or it gives me an end point at which I can slide out this line with sliding set squares to end up at this point. But realistically, all we need to do is to draw our finished tangent coming from this point here, draw it out anywhere, and then just select these two lines and make them parallel to each other. So that has given us our solution there. And if we really wanted to, so I'm going to make that finished as well, sorry. So that's going to be my finished line. If you draw it in the wrong layer, you can just select the line that you want to change the color of, change the layer of, and then down here you can change the layer that that belongs to. So if I really want to be clear about what's going on, I can add in a line down here to my smaller circle as well. Add in that line from the center out to the circumference, select my line, select this line, and say that these are now parallel to each other. And what I've identified here then is the point of contact between my tangent and my smaller circle. Now, in order for me to be able to communicate this maybe a bit more effectively, I can create my circle again that moves here, and I can create my other smaller circle that moves here, and I can create a tangent between those two circles. So if I just draw it from a point on the original, sorry, not that circle there, this should be blue here, this one. So that should be blue, and this smaller one should be blue as well, so that should be in that layer. This is the one that moves, so I just need to select a point on that circle to draw a point on. So my beginning point is there, and then the point on this, which I can draw this, and then that has automatically selected them to be tangential. Now, the reason that it's kind of going a bit crazy on me there right now, and the reason that it's not working out, is because my tangent is not parallel to the original tangents that I'm using in my question. So what I need to do is I need to select this, so it is right now, but I'll just change it to make it clear that it not always is. Okay, it is. It's after adding a relationship, so I'm just going to get rid of that relationship now. just for the purpose of actually getting a true understanding of what's actually going on. And I will add in my tangent again. Sometimes it just knows what you want to do. There we go. Okay, so that is not what we wanted to do. Okay, so I'll leave it in that position to make it obviously wrong. And then I'll select my tangent here, which is representative of the tangent being manipulated to go out to the normal, correct length, or to the correct radii of the circles. Select both of those and make them parallel. Now, because of the nature of our sketch, Solidworks doesn't know that we just want it within these bounds. So that is what we've got here. We've got it within those bounds. So I can change this to be orange as well. And that is our solution. What we can also add in to add to the pedagogical, let's say, utility of this particular dynamic sketch is we can add in annotations. And in the very same way as you did with your title box, you can select particular points to annotate. For example, this one here is our point of contact. So if we want to explode that out and say that I want it just a little bit bigger just for better communication, and then I can say that this is the POC, which is generally used as a term in designing communication graphics and graphics for point of contact. Okay, so that is how you would create the geometry that I showed you in the lecture this week. That is a bit of a tutorial as to how to create that. And for this week's assigned formative assessment, apply the very same principles and get basically to the same place with an internal tangent between two circles. Thank you.